Welcome back to our channel, your premier destination for the most thrilling updates and deep dives into the dramatic world of Genoa City. Today is a beautiful day to unravel a masterfully crafted storyline that has left us all completely speechless. Let's dive straight into the explosive events unfolding right now. Phyllis Summers has officially hit a devastating rock bottom, a terrifying descent into a personal and professional abyss that has left her completely stripped of her usual impenetrable armor. The walls of her meticulously constructed corporate empire have violently crumbled around her, brought down by the ruthless machinations of Victor Newman and his fabricated artificial intelligence evidence. The sheer humiliation of being paraded in handcuffs, escorted by none other than her eternal rival Christine Blair Romalodi, has left a permanent, burning scar on her pride. Christine, wielding her legal authority with icy determination, ensured that Phyllis felt the full, crushing weight of the justice system. For a woman who has always prided herself on her unmatched ability to outsmart her enemies, finding herself cornered, facing severe federal charges, and watching her legacy evaporate into thin air is a psychological torment unlike any she has ever endured. Adding immeasurable agony to her professional destruction is the profound personal rejection she recently suffered at the hands of her ex-husband, Nick Newman. Nick, a man who has always been a tether to her humanity and a source of lingering affection, looked her in the eye and delivered a blow that shattered her remaining resolve. He coolly informed her that he no longer cares about what happens to her, severing a bond that Phyllis had always secretly relied upon for emotional grounding. This rejection was not just a passing argument. It was a definitive, soul-crushing dismissal that left Phyllis entirely isolated in a world that suddenly feels incredibly hostile. The realization that the father of her daughter, a man she has loved and fought for through countless battles, has completely washed his hands of her existence has plunged her into an unprecedented state of emotional vulnerability. She is a woman without a country, without an ally, and without a lifeline. It is within the suffocating atmosphere of defeat that Phyllis finds herself seeking refuge at the mahogany bar of the Genoa City Athletic Club. The ambient noise of the upscale establishment, the rhythmic clinking of crystal glasses, and the low murmur of wealthy patrons served as a stark, mocking contrast to the chaotic storm raging inside her mind. She sits there, nursing her drink, enveloped in a heavy, suffocating cloak of despair and bitter resentment. Every shadow in the opulent room seems to whisper the names of her betrayers, Victor, Victoria, Christine, and even Kane Ashby, who recently branded her as pure poison to her face. Lauren Fenn Baldwin's dire, frantic warnings about her collapsing business deals echo relentlessly in her ears, a constant reminder of her impending ruin. Phyllis is a wounded lioness, backed into a corner, bleeding out from 1,000 betrayals, desperately waiting for a miracle or a weapon to present itself in the darkness. And then, as if summoned by the dark, chaotic energy radiating from Phyllis, a handsome stranger walks into the club and takes the empty seat beside her. This is no ordinary stranger looking for a casual conversation. This is Matt Clark, the very embodiment of trauma and terror for the entire Newman family. However, the man sitting at the bar is a blank slate, entirely stripped of his malicious history, his psychopathic tendencies, and his thirst for vengeance. Thanks to a desperate, violent act of self-defense by his former lover Sienna Bacall, who struck him in the head with a heavy rock in the unforgiving Nevada desert, Matt is suffering from profound, genuine amnesia. The severe physical trauma to his brain has completely wiped his hard drive, leaving him adrift in a world he no longer recognizes. He does not know his own name, he does not know his dark past, and he certainly does not know the monstrous acts he has committed against the people of this city. The dramatic irony of this moment is absolutely staggering and deliciously cruel for the audience to witness. Matt Clark is entirely oblivious to the fact that he is the sinister architect of Nick Newman's current, agonizing battle with severe opioid withdrawal. He has no memory of kidnapping Nick in Las Vegas, no recollection of lacing his drugs with deadly fentanyl, and no idea that he spent his youth systematically terrorizing and traumatizing Sharon Newman. He is walking through the world with the innocent, disoriented curiosity of a newborn, completely detached from the legacy of pure destruction he left in his wake. To him, the woman sitting next to him is just a captivating, fiery redhead radiating an intoxicating mix of profound sorrow and fierce defiance. He does not see Phyllis Summers, the notorious corporate saboteur and Newman enemy. He just sees a fascinating, beautiful woman who looks like she desperately needs a friend. When Matt turns to Phyllis and speaks, the universe of Genoa City shifts on its axis in a way that will alter the course of history. He looks at this broken, defeated woman and tells her that she has the undeniable aura of main character energy. Those words are a masterclass in psychological validation. For Phyllis, who has spent the last several days being told she is a criminal, a failure, toxic poison, and a lost cause, hearing a handsome stranger validate her inherent power is like receiving a sudden, life-saving rush of oxygen in a vacuum. It is the exact phrase she needs to hear to reignite the dormant, dangerous fire within her soul. The sheer perfection of this opening line cannot be overstated. It is the spark that threatens to burn down the entire city, delivered by the absolute last person who should be holding the match. Phyllis, in her state of desperate vulnerability and emotional exhaustion, is completely blind to the catastrophic danger sitting casually beside her. She does not realize that she is locking eyes with the most dangerous man in town, the very monster who nearly killed her ex-husband and relentlessly terrorized her daughter's stepmother. She only sees a charming, enigmatic man who is offering her a clean slate, a judgment-free zone where she is not defined by her recent, highly publicized failures. The mutual ignorance between these two powerhouses creates a fascinating, highly combustible dynamic that crackles with unspoken tension. They are two ghosts haunting the same bar, completely unaware of the massive, overlapping webs of trauma, hatred, and history that connect them through the Newman family tree. As the conversation inevitably deepens and Matt confesses his profound memory loss, the gears in Phyllis's brilliantly strategic mind will begin to turn with dangerous speed. Is Phyllis Summers gearing up for the ultimate, long-con grift? Given her current, desperate circumstances, she has every motivation in the world to weaponize this amnesiac stranger. With her business in absolute ruins and her enemies circling like vultures waiting to pick her bones clean, a man with no past, no loyalties, and a clear, undeniable charm is the perfect blank canvas for her revenge. Phyllis could easily decide to mold Matt into the ultimate, unpredictable weapon against Victor Newman and the rest of her detractors. She could use him to infiltrate enemy lines, gather crucial intelligence, and execute a hostile takeover of her own narrative, effectively turning the tables on everyone who counted her out. It is entirely plausible that Phyllis will initiate this dynamic as a cold, calculated scheme born of pure survival instinct. She might seduce Matt, weaving a complex web of carefully constructed lies to ensure his absolute, unwavering loyalty to her alone. By becoming his sole anchor in a terrifying world he does not understand, Phyllis can control his actions and direct his focus entirely toward dismantling the Newman Empire brick by brick. She could feed him a fabricated history, one where Victor is the ultimate villain and she is the tragically wronged heroine, perfectly aligning his new reality with her desperate need for vengeance. This strategic manipulation would be classic Phyllis Summers, a testament to her ruthless survival instincts and her absolute refusal to surrender without a spectacular, earth-shattering fight. However, the brilliant writers of this show have a long, established history of transforming cynical, manipulative schemes into profound, genuine emotional connections that defy all logic. While Phyllis might begin this dangerous journey with the sole intention of using Matt as a mere pawn on her chessboard, the sheer, undeniable magnetism between them could easily evolve into something dangerously real. As she spends time with this blank slate version of Matt Clark, she might find herself genuinely falling for the man he is right now, a man unburdened by malice, A man who sees her inherent worth when absolutely no one else does. The vulnerability of his amnesia combined with her own desperate, aching need for unconditional acceptance creates a fertile ground for a deeply passionate, entirely unexpected romance to blossom in the darkest of places. If Phyllis truly falls in love with Matt Clark, the narrative stakes will be elevated to an agonizing, suffocating new height. She would find herself fiercely protective of a man who, in his past life, was an irredeemable monster. This emotional entanglement would force Phyllis to confront the darkest, most uncomfortable corners of her own soul. Can she separate the gentle man she loves today from the atrocities he committed yesterday? The psychological complexity of loving an abuser who has completely forgotten his abuse is a goldmine of dramatic potential that will test the limits of her conscience. Phyllis would be walking a terrifying tightrope, constantly terrified of the inevitable moment his memories might violently return, while simultaneously fighting tooth and nail to preserve the beautiful, untainted connection they have built in the shadows. The inevitable, tragic climax of this storyline will arrive when Matt's memories finally, violently shatter the illusion they have built. When the mental fog lifts and the psychopath fully reawakens, Phyllis will be faced with the most excruciating moral dilemma of her entire life. Will she choose to help the man she has grown to love escape the severe consequences of his horrific past, effectively betraying Nick, Sharon, and the entire Newman family in the process? Or will she sacrifice her own heart, turning the man who saved her from her darkest hour over to the justice system to pay for the immense trauma he inflicted on the people she once called family? For a woman who operates comfortably in the gray areas of morality, this choice will be a soul-tearing crucible that could destroy her completely. Watching this narrative unfold fills us with an overwhelming sense of awe and profound emotional investment. There is a deeply visceral, almost poetic tragedy in witnessing two fundamentally broken people find solace in each other, completely blind to the catastrophic history that should make them mortal enemies. We cannot help but feel a profound sense of sorrow for Phyllis, whose desperation is so palpable and heartbreaking that she is willing to embrace a total stranger just to feel seen and valued. It is a testament to the unparalleled storytelling power of the soap opera medium that we can feel such intense, conflicting empathy for characters who are so deeply flawed and dangerous. This storyline is a breathtaking exploration of identity, redemption, and the terrifying consequences of our past, and it leaves us completely breathless, reflecting on the fragile, often destructive nature of human connection, as Phyllis and Matt continue to share their drinks and their secrets in the dimly lit corners of the Genoa City Athletic Club. A ticking time bomb has been activated right under the noses of the unsuspecting Newman family. With every lingering glance and shared smile, the foundation of the city edges closer to a total catastrophic collapse that will leave no one unscathed. When the truth finally shatters this fragile illusion, who will be left standing in the wreckage? And will Phyllis Summers become the ultimate savior or the final casualty of Matt Clark's twisted legacy? The storm is only just beginning, and the fallout will change the landscape of Genoa City forever.